You're listening to FSBO Office Hours brought to you by Stuart St. James and Entry Only New England. Welcome to our July 2015 FSBO Office Hours, a question and answer session designed specifically for the for sale by owner or FSBO to ask and answer your questions about flat fee MLS entry only listings. This session is brought to you by Stuart St. James and Entry Only New England. I'll be your host. My name is Darren. I'm the broker and owner of Stuart St. James, a full service residential real estate brokerage based in Boston, Massachusetts, and the creator of the Entry Only New England platform, the leading Massachusetts based flat fee MLS listing provider. I want to thank you for joining us today for this office hours session. The office hours concept, if you recall from your days in school, was an opportunity for students to spend one on one time with the professor, ask their questions. And that's what we're doing here today. Spending time with you as a FSBO, giving you the ability to ask questions as you prepare to list and sell your own home. That said, the content of this session is going to be really driven by you as the FSBO. And so, what we are going to do is open this up, and we'd like to encourage you to be part of the conversation. And so, how do you do that? So, if you happen to be watching live on YouTube, go ahead and click the link on the lower left of the YouTube screen that says Be Part of the Conversation. And that will take you over to the official event page for this office hours session. And that's where you'll be able to join in on the interactive question and answer session. So we're using Google Hangouts on Air technology, and you may be familiar with that already, but I'll try and walk everyone through that quickly so that you can join in on that discussion. So what you'll want to do is look near the top of your screen in your navigation bar, and I'd like to encourage you to go do this now. Once you're on the events page, along the top navigation of that page, you'll see an icon that looks very similar to a Rubik's Cube. And you'll click that, which will then allow you to click on the Q&A icon. And once you click on that Q&A icon, that will launch the question and answer functionality into the right-hand part of your screen. And there you'll be able to type in your questions and hit the large green button that says Ask a New Question. So you simply click that and you'll be on your way. So I want to encourage everyone to go do that now as you get settled in so that we can start queuing up some questions to make really good use of our time. What we have seen in the for sale by owner or FSBO, as well as the flat fee MLS entry only listing space, is that massive value can really be delivered to you as someone who wants to list and sell your own home. And that value can be really delivered by professional, high quality FSBO education. And so this FSBO question and answer session is really a step towards that, a step towards delivering that value to you. And our time together today will give you the opportunity to ask your FSBO and flat fee MLS questions. Now, I realize that everyone is at a different level. They consume content and learn differently, but I want to encourage you to leverage this medium that we have here today and begin to submit your questions. So, as a real estate broker with more than 10 years of experience, I have an appreciation for the value a full service agent can offer in certain circumstances. But at the very same time, I'm personally committed to and passionate about providing homeowners choice when listing their property for sale or for rent, which leads to what I would call the democratization of real estate listings. And that's evident, obviously, in the founding of Entry Only New England, a platform dedicated to really helping FSBOs succeed. So, as a reminder, if you happen to be watching live on YouTube, go ahead and click that link that says join the conversation on the lower left of the screen. That will launch you over into the events page. And once you're there, I'd like to encourage you to begin submitting your questions. And you can do that by simply clicking the icon in the top navigation of your screen that looks somewhat like a Rubik's Cube. Once you click on that Rubik's Cube, there'll be a couple of options that open up, one of them being a Q&A icon standing for question and answer. You click on that, and that'll launch the Q&A functionality into the right-hand part of your screen. You'll be able to type in your questions and then follow that up by clicking the large green button that says ask a new question. So I just want to encourage everyone to go ahead and start doing that so we can queue up some questions. So today we're going to be focusing on helping you as a for sale by owner, specifically in the context of flat fee MLS listings, also known as entry only MLS listings, and the platform that we've created to help FSBOs with their flat fee MLS listings to advertise their property in the MLS directly is a platform called Entry Only New England. Now, this was formed in 2012, and Entry Only New England really is a platform that will assist you as a for sale by owner get your property directly into the multiple listing service, the official MLS system that's used by all licensed agents and brokers. And so the idea here is that once you have your property listed for sale or for rent in the MLS, there's obviously a lot of syndication power behind that. We can go into that a little bit later in our session today. The idea is that you, as a for sale by owner, by taking on some of the work that a standard seller's agent, if you will, would perform on your behalf, you can avoid paying that commission, that real estate agent commission that would typically be paid to a seller's agent or a listing broker, if you will. So that's the concept behind a flat fee MLS entry only listing. We call it flat fee because there is a one-time flat fee that is involved with listing the property into the MLS. There's no other hidden fees or costs later on in the transaction. It's a one-time fee. And we refer to it as entry only simply because the broker who has access to the MLS that you're partnering with is going to simply enter your property only into the MLS. So they're entering that property on your behalf, and that's what you're paying the flat fee for. You're not getting charged for anything else. And so the only thing that that broker is doing for you is entering your property. So that's where we come up with the entry only concept. So I want to go ahead and take a look at our questions, which hopefully are starting to queue up. And again, what I want to encourage you to do is as you're watching the live stream, you'll have the opportunity to ask your questions. And you do that by clicking what looks like a Rubik's Cube icon along the top navigation of your screen. And once you do that, that'll open up the Q&A icon. You can click on that, and that'll launch our Q&A functionality over into the right-hand part of your screen. And you'll be able to type in your questions and click on that large green button that says Ask a New Question. Once you do that, we can start to look at those questions, and you'll also have the ability to see the questions that others have asked in the right-hand part of your screen. And you'll also be able to vote on those questions by hitting the +1 button next to them. And that will essentially move them up in the list to be answered more quickly. And then we can also use that as a mechanism to go ahead and highlight which question we're answering. So you can follow along if you need to step away for a moment. So please go ahead and start submitting your questions so that we can make this an interactive event and help everyone out here that has joined us today and that will be listening to this replay later on in the future. So please go ahead and start submitting your questions. One of the questions that I thought it would be interesting to just start with is something that we get often, and that's really a question around what other websites will my property be listed on if I'm to do an entry only listing. And the idea here is that once your listing is into the official multiple listing service or MLS system, that property listing is then going to be syndicated to literally thousands of different websites across the internet. Now, it will definitely be syndicated to the largest, most popular real estate websites like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, sites like that. For some of you, you may be familiar with the fact that Zillow and Trulia recently signed an agreement to merge. So Zillow acquired Trulia, and those two sites will continue to remain separate and distinct. But keep in mind that they are now essentially one company. But you're still seeing that Zillow is probably the most popular real estate website across the United States. And so your property, once in the MLS system itself, that being the ultimate source of record, if you will, your property is going to be syndicated out to sites like Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com. And it's from there that, as you well know, just as you can think about when you purchased your own home, you more than likely started your search for a home online. Nearly 100% of buyers are starting their search online. So if your property is present and syndicated out to all of these websites, you are driving massive exposure for your property. And so the idea there is that by putting your property into the MLS system, you're not only being exposed, obviously, to licensed agents and brokers who use the MLS system as a fundamental tool on a day to day basis to run their business, but it will also be syndicated out to all of those other websites across the internet. Now, with Intramural New England, that syndication process, if you will, is part of our standard offering. So once you list with Entry Only New England, your property goes into the MLS system. It's going to be syndicated out to all of those most popular websites. So no doubt about that. One of the things that we have also seen lately is we've seen for sale by owners or FSBOs claim their listings on Zillow and other sites. And I'd like to try and just speak to that for a moment and share with you some thoughts and some observations anecdotally about what we're seeing in the market related to that. What I'd like to encourage you to do up front to just kind of set the stage for this part of the discussion is to not claim your listing on Zillow, for instance. And the reason why I say that is once you have made the decision to list and sell your home, you're ultimately going to want your property in the MLS system. The MLS system, that's the ultimate source of record. That's going to provide the base for the maximum level of exposure that your property could possibly have. What we've been seeing with FSBOs who claim their listing on Zillow ahead of time before listing in the MLS is that that claiming of the listing creates a conflict with the MLS system and oftentimes will override the changes that are present in the MLS system. So a property will not syndicate over to Zillow, for instance, from the MLS system. And so that obviously will impact you as you continue to make updates to your property in the MLS system, which is, again, the ultimate source of record for all of these other websites that your property is being syndicated to. So, what we have seen and what I'd like to encourage you to do is if you are committed to wanting to move forward with selling your own home, what I'd encourage you to do is not claim your own listing on Zillow and leverage the fact that once your property gets into the MLS system, it'll then be syndicated over to Zillow and frankly all the other websites as well that you're probably looking at or trying to claim your listing on. And so again, there's some conflicts that typically happen there, and we've especially seen those over the past several months as the market in Massachusetts and the velocity in the market has increased. So that's one thing to think about. So, again, at this time, feel free to go ahead and start submitting your questions, and we'll have an opportunity to answer those. You can do that by hitting the icon on the top of your screen in the navigation area that looks similar to a Rubik's Cube. And once clicking that, that'll open up the Q&A area, and you'll click on that Q&A icon, and that'll launch the question and answer functionality into the right-hand part of your screen. You can type in your questions and hit the large green button that says ask a new question. So I encourage you to go ahead and do that. One of the other things related to syndication of your listing onto other websites like Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com and many others, one of the things that we oftentimes get questions about is around the contact information that's on that listing. And I think it would be a great idea to just camp out on this question for a few moments and just help explain some of the mechanics behind what's happening with contact information related to your listing, how do buyers, how do agents, how do brokers get in touch with you to come see your home, make an offer on your home. And so let me try and walk through that for you and try and paint a picture here. Within the MLS system itself, which is only accessible by licensed agents and brokers, your property listing will have something within it called a field that is called the special showing instructions field. Within that special showing instructions field, what Entry Only New England does is we list the name and contact phone number of the property owner. And we encourage licensed agents and brokers who are searching the MLS system directly to go ahead and reach out and touch base with the property owner directly. We try and connect those two parties directly together so that you will be engaged directly with buyer's agents who are representing buyer clients of theirs. Now, the key to remember is that, again, the MLS system itself, that's only accessible by licensed agents and brokers. And that special showing instructions field is a special field within your listing, and it will have information about you and your contact information. So licensed agents and brokers will be able to contact you directly. A lot of the confusion and some of the questions come up related to other websites, Realtor.com, Zillow, Trulia, so on and so forth. What happens there? Well, by practice, the MLS system itself does not syndicate that special showing instructions field to those third party websites. And so what happens there? At the end of the day, what happens is your listing will be on those websites, and there will be a field on there that will say this property is listed by the name of the brokerage. In the case of Entry Only New England, it would be Stewart St. James. Stewart St. James would technically be the listing brokerage, if you will. And as I said, the special showing instructions field with your name, your contact phone number, that field does not get syndicated over to these third party websites. And so what happens is, as buyers who are looking on these websites directly, as well as agents and brokers who sometimes use those websites to search for properties, but theoretically they should be looking in the MLS system and have access to your information directly. So, namely, buyers will find themselves contacting the listing brokerage for your listing. Now, what we do at Entry Only New England, we try and run a very, very transparent communication process related to inquiries directly from buyers and those as well from agents and brokers trying to get a hold of you as the property owner, the for sale by owner in this case. And so what we do with inquiries that come in directly from buyers, we do two things. One, we go ahead and we respond directly to that buyer with your name and your contact phone number. We state that the property that they are inquiring about is an entry only MLS listing and that they are to work directly with the property owner. And then the second thing that we do is we forward that communication thread directly to you as the owner of the property. And so that really does two things. One, it shows that we have a transparent communication process, that the buyer inquiry is being responded to with your contact information. And then two, it also provides you the ability then to see the buyer's name, their contact information, email, phone number, so on and so forth. And so what that is really setting up is a transparent communication process, and one that's important for you to think about in the sense that Entry New England is not poaching or stealing buyer inquiry leads that you theoretically could get on your own. And so the holy grail for you as a for sale by owner is you've done a flat fee MLS entry only listing. You've now avoided the seller's agent or the listing broker's commission. The holy grail for you is to then avoid paying any sort of commission related to a buyer's agent. And so if you can establish contact with a buyer directly, you then have the opportunity to basically eliminate agents within the transaction. And you are then kind of in the driver's seat, if you will. And so, what you want to do is focus on using a flat fee MLS listing provider that is very transparent about their communication process, that they aren't stealing leads or poaching leads that come in directly from buyers and passing those on to full service agents who would then represent that buyer. You want to avoid using a broker who maybe sells that contact information to some other type of third party. So you really want, at the end of the day, to get hooked up directly with buyers. And the communication process that we run at Entry New England is highly transparent. And we do that for the reasons discussed. And we actually encourage for sale by owners to test the communication integrity of their listing. Go off and create a Gmail address or an email account, which is very easy to do these days, or maybe have one of your friends inquire about your listing specifically. Go out to Zillow, for instance, and contact the listing brokerage and see what happens. Does that inquiry get responded to quickly? Does it get forwarded to you directly? And then as time passes, are you then bombarded with third parties who your information perhaps was sold to? Or maybe there is an agent who somehow magically appears and starts trying to work with that inquirer, that buyer in this case. And so we encourage you to test the communication integrity of your listing. That's something that is really important to focus on and to do, and to just be confident in when you do make that decision to go ahead and list for sale by owner on the MLS. So as we continue our time here today, as you have questions, feel free to go ahead and submit those questions. You can do so by clicking on the Rubik's Cube icon along the top navigation of your screen. You can then click on what is the Q&A icon, and that'll launch the question and answer functionality into the right-hand part of your screen. You'll then be able to type in your question and hit the large green Ask a New Question button. If we could, maybe we could spend a moment just on a practical question that has come up quite a bit lately. And that is around the idea of who holds onto the earnest money deposit and then the additional deposit that typically is part of the signing of a purchase and sale agreement after an offer to purchase is executed. And that's a great question. Now, typically speaking, if you recall from purchasing your property, you submitted an offer. You, along with that offer, submitted an earnest money deposit. Oftentimes in Massachusetts, that's $1,000 to, in essence, show that you have an earnest interest in the property. Once an offer to purchase is accepted, that earnest money is deposited. Now, typically, if a property is being listed in a full commission sense, where there's a standard listing broker who's charging a full commission, that earnest money deposit is going to be held in the listing brokerage's escrow account. So that's an account from a business perspective that is kept very separate and distinct from the operating accounts of the brokerage itself. And by law, brokerages have to maintain those separation of funds and avoid commingling, if you will. But typically, those earnest money deposits, both for the initial earnest money that accompanies an offer to purchase, as well as the additional deposit that's part of the purchase and sale agreement, that is going to be typically deposited into the listing brokerage's escrow account. Now, with you as a for sale by owner, you have cut out the listing broker in essence. You are paying a flat fee to advertise your property in the MLS, but you're avoiding paying a commission. And so you're not really availing yourself of the features, if you will, of a standard quote unquote listing broker. And so where does that earnest money go? Well, as you might imagine, the buyer, and if there is a buyer's agent involved in the transaction, they don't feel comfortable writing an earnest money check out to you as the owner, expecting that you're going to deposit that into your personal account. And so, really, what you want to do here is you want to be working hand in hand with your real estate attorney and leverage the real estate attorney's accounts to put that into an escrow account. And as you might imagine, what you want to try and focus on doing is in preparation and learning how to actually FSBO properly. You're going to want to set up an agreement with and a relationship with a real estate attorney early on, probably before you actually list your property for sale. You establish that relationship early on. Most oftentimes in Massachusetts, real estate attorneys work off of a flat fee model as well. So you'll pay them a one time fee and then you'll have a relationship with them for the rest of the transaction. And so you'll want to establish a relationship with a real estate attorney, and you'll leverage that relationship to answer questions throughout the transaction. They'll be the one that initiates the first draft of a purchase and sale agreement after an offer to purchase is mutually accepted. And again, they can serve as the escrow agent, if you will, for those earnest money deposits. And that is something that then provides a lot more trust and confidence from the buyer side of the transaction. They feel comfortable writing an earnest money deposit or check to a real estate attorney in that office versus writing a check out to you directly as a personal homeowner. So, something to think about there as well is engaging with a real estate attorney early. I'd encourage you to do that before you actually list your property. And again, most oftentimes real estate attorneys work off of a flat fee model as well. So you are paying a one time fee that will essentially provide you that service from that attorney throughout the course of the transaction, which would include that time when you're receiving offers to purchase, and then also throughout the purchase and sale agreement, and then all the way through various contingencies and all the way to the property close. Okay, the I think the last question that we have time for today is around something that we oftentimes see, and that's around real estate signs. So many for sale by owners want to use a yard sign to advertise their property. And I just want to point out some quick tips related to real estate signs. So if you plan to advertise your property in the multiple listing service itself, the MLS, so not Stuart St. James, not Entry Only New England, but the MLS itself, their rules and regulations state that if you want to avail yourself of a listing in their multiple listing service, that you are not allowed to use a sign that has the words for sale by owner. And then separately, you must use a sign from the listing brokerage. And so, in essence, what that means is the listing brokerage name has to be on that sign somewhere. Doesn't, at the end of the day, really matter how large or small it is, but the listing brokerage name has to be on there. And then the key point is you're not allowed to use the phrase for sale by owner specifically. Now, is that something that we are going to go out and drive around and check your sign? No, but I will say that I have seen instances where other agents representing buyers will make a complaint to the MLS front office, which will then trigger a conversation for the MLS front office to contact us. And so, just as a reminder, do not use signs that say for sale by owner, and you have to use a sign from the listing brokerage or at a minimum has the name of the listing brokerage on that sign. We have a a great offering where we provide real estate signs that are professionally designed and that have your information, your contact information on them. You can order those on our website if you'd like, entryonlynewengland.com. So this is wrapping up our time together today. I want to encourage you to continue the education process, the learning process for you. So I want to thank you for attending today. And then I also want to encourage you, if you have more questions, feel free to visit the frequently asked questions page at entryonlynewengland.com. And that will help continue you in this process of education, both on the front end before you ever list and how to prepare your home to be FSBO'd properly. And then also after you list, you have the ability to check out a lot of different questions related to how to work with your flat fee MLS listing. So, with that, I want to thank you for attending today. It's been a pleasure to speak with you and to answer questions to hopefully help equip you to be more successful in listing and selling your own home and avoiding paying real estate agent commission. Thank you so much.